ability to understand how it works, to understand how it works.
Q-tape. Possibilities Network. And 3, 2, 1. Live from Indianapolis, Indiana, this is the iPad Possibilities Show. With your host, Tim Chapman.
Well, welcome. This is the iPad Possibilities Podcast, episode number 50, the Cookpad. And we're live today. It is Sunday, June 13th, and I'm here today with John Finnan over in Arizona. How are you doing today?
Good, Tim. How about yourself?
Doing great. A lot of thunderstorms and crazy weather in Indiana, as is typical here. But today we're going to be doing a lot of talking about cooking on the iPad. I was trying to think of some topics that a lot of just general people might be interested in. And one thing is cookbooks, because cookbooks, everyone's got some, or most people do, and they get beat up in the kitchen. And I kind of wanted to pose this question, is the iPad a good cooking tool as far as recipes and all that? And would it be safe to use the iPad in the kitchen? So we're going to tackle all that today. I just had one announcement before we get started. I talked on the Friday-Saturday show how I would actually be in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, next Saturday, doing at PodCamp, Ohio. It's a big podcaster, new media expo or whatever, conference, and it's from 9 to 5 next Saturday. And I will be doing a live show, partnering up with the iPad show, as some listeners might listen to that show as well. We'll be doing a joint show together sometime on Saturday. I'll try to keep you guys updated as far as what time and where you can check the live show out, but that will be happening next Saturday. So very excited about that. That's going to be a lot of fun, and hope to learn some good things down there from some other podcasters.
Sounds like it'll be a great time for you.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because I've never been to. I'm a fairly new podcaster, so it'll be my first, conference or expo where I get to actually meet other podcasters, and it should be a lot of fun. So the next event I hope to make my way out to is Macworld. That'll be a bigger, more expensive venture, but it should be a lot of fun.
Have you ever been to Columbus before?
I have. It's been a vague memory. I've been there. I've been to Cincinnati and all that kind of stuff. I went out to meet Ryan a while back for the launch of the iPad in Ohio. So I've been across Ohio, but it should be fun.
Columbus is a great town. I did some work there a few years back, and it's a great town. So enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I will.
Have fun.
Yeah, it should be fun meeting all the. I'm going to have lunch, I think, with the iPad show guys and get to meet them, and that should be a lot of fun meeting just the whole community in the Midwest, because you hear all the podcasters live in California or whatever, and it's nice to know I'm not alone out here.
There's a lot of Midwesterners.
Yes.
In podcasting. So
yeah,
good.
it'll be fun. But anyways, beyond that, so check it out Saturday. There'll be a live stream at iPadshow.com, and we'll have a live stream, I'm hoping, on my website as well. And from there, I also wanted to let you guys know I tried out the Wi-Fi sync app for jailbroken iPads and iPhones. And I've got it running on my original iPhone 2G and now my iPad 3G. And it works great. It's kind of this surreal experience where you just open this app and it appears in iTunes. You can start syncing, and it's just very cool. I'd recommend installing it if you're jailbroken. It is a bit longer for the sync, but it's just a cool experience. I think you should check it out.
Any limitations in it, Tim?
The only limitation I've found is you need to plug it in. This kind of makes sense if you're doing a restore, because obviously you're rebooting the machine. But beyond that, it backs up, it does the whole sync, music, apps, all that kind of stuff, and it's just a little bit slower. But with the iPad, I was on an N network, so it was faster than the iPhone, but it was a good experience overall. Did not have any issues with it, and it was on sale for $5, down from $10. I'm not sure if that sale is still going on, think it was WWDC sale. But so yeah, nice little app that makes it appear the iPad is now in a later generation than it currently is with this Wi-Fi sync stuff.
Very cool.
But the first big topic conversation I want to talk about was the whole idea of resolution independence in the next generation iPhone OS, or iOS. I'm going to keep on doing that for a while. But with the Retina display, we've seen the first instance where Apple's doing what they call resolution independence. That's where typically on regular machines, such as laptops, you'll have those super high density screens. But the problem is, I guess it's not a problem, it's just kind of a weird thing. The size of the screen just gets, the text, all the images get smaller instead of giving you more clarity, is what many people have noticed. And with the iPhone, what they're doing is they're making it more independent, where the images, the text stays the same size, but it's just super high res and super clear. So I'm kind of curious if with the iPad, if you think we'll start to see, iPhone apps being treated better on the iPad, as far as the keyboards being perhaps done in iPad styles, or what do you think about that whole idea?
Well, it's it's interesting. Apple has really put some resolution independence capabilities into Mac OS 10. I think in 10.4 had some, and I think 10.5 is got more. They haven't, I think, really evangelized it and really gotten people on board with what that all means, and really working toward it. But of course, the Mac OS uses Display PostScript as one of the imaging models, and so consequently, it's that is more of a vector-based, or potentially more of a vector-based solution. And the iPhone, we're dealing with a lot of bitmaps, images, pixel maps, maybe might be the more proper term. And so it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I think it's important for Apple to move in this direction, and move pretty aggressively in the direction of resolution independence, because that frees them up to do things. As we talked about last week, the whole deal with creating this display that was twice the size in both directions made that transition and interpretation of lower res bitmaps easier, because it was just a doubling in both sides. But that they're still stuck with the same relative dimensions, or multiples of the relative dimensions, until you can get to something that's really resolution independent. And I think that's a real key thing that we need to see more operating systems, and certainly for mobile, I think most mobile operating systems need to move in that direction if they haven't already, because you do want to be able to vary that screen size in different ways. You might end up with a much wider screen, or a square screen, or different other screen sizes for different purposes, or just densities, pixel densities of the screen. And the more independent the applications are, then obviously the better you're going to transition each new hardware by being able to be using the earlier applications that were resolution independent. So, it's a start, and I'm glad to see it. It needs to be pushed pretty hard, I think, to get where we need to be with these mobile devices.
Yeah, I agree. It should be interesting, because we haven't really seen anything about iOS for iPad yet. I imagine they do a separate event sometime later this summer and kind of give us some hints. Are the iPhone apps going to be made looking better, since we've used this technology with the Retina iPhone? Perhaps they can adapt that for the iPad in some manner. And I'm just kind of curious what they'll add. I think resolution independence may be one of those things they add.
Right.
So, yeah, it should be interesting. We'll probably have more information on this later this summer when we hear about iOS for iPad. But with that said, let's move on to the main topic of tonight. And for episode 50, that's cooking with the iPad. And so what I've tried to break it down into different categories and things like that. We're going to start off with some applications that are designed for the iPad for cooking, like cookbooks and things like that. And then moving towards the iBook store actually has some wonderful, they're pretty good apps for cooking. And then we'll move on to some hardware things that make cooking a much simpler process. So first off, John, I want to ask you, do you have any apps that you really like as far as cooking with the iPad, or have you tried this at all?
Yeah, I have a couple, and the two I have are on the list for tonight. One is Betty Crocker Cookbook, and the other is Epicurious, and both those are pretty well. They happen to be free, so that was a good thing. So I don't use them extensively, but it's nice to have them available for free to use as the need arises. But I think they're both pretty good. What I look for is really, getting a recipe. I know there's other ones that throw in a lot of other features, which I guess if I used them all the time, I'd probably be looking for more of those features. But the way I do it is, I'm typically not. I'm either going to make a special meal, and let me preface this by saying I don't cook much.
Yeah.
But when I do cook, I'm either maybe it's a special occasion or something. I want to make a special meal, and so I'm looking for the best recipe to use for that particular meal. Or I might occasionally have some ingredients that were destined to be used for maybe another meal and didn't get used up or used at all, and so now it's kind of like, what can I make with this? So that's kind of my minor use of these applications. What about you, Tim?
Sorry about that. I was muted. The cool thing about some of these applications, as you said, you've got these 2 or 3 ingredients. What can I do with them? And there's a lot of them that you put in your leftovers, those ingredients that you can use, and it will find something out there that works for that. One of the cool things I found, the Betty Crocker Cookbook was the first on my list because it blew me away as far as just thinking it through, as far as what do I, as a chef, a cook, need in a cookbook application? And most logically, I would think I need a cooking mode. I need a mode that is designed to help me cook. Something that I don't have to touch the iPad that much, something I can read from far away. And this was the only app I found that really had that in mind, that cooking while using it. So Betty Crocker, it's I think a little bit more limited than, say, Big Oven or Epicurious, but the app itself is much better, and I think there's a great number of, I think, desserts Betty Crocker kind of specializes in, and there's some other, good regular meals and everything. But the cook mode, as I described, is pretty amazing. Basically what it does is, I'm on the cook mode now for the healthified mini chocolate cheesecakes, and it breaks it down into these 4 different steps here, and basically it just takes that recipe and finds those steps, and it'll give you the different instructions blown up as big as it can, and it adapts it for vertical mode as well. And then you just click step 2 for step 2, and it just slides it over, and when you're ready for step 3, just hit step 3. Now the cool thing is, they've integrated, say you need to stir something for 15 minutes or bake something for 15 minutes and come back. They've got an integrated timer. So you can walk away, leave your iPad in the kitchen, and go watch your TV show. It'll buzz, ring, and you're able to go back and finish cooking. This is something that traditional cookbooks, you could not have done this with because it's paper. There's no way to open up a sheet of paper and instantly some timer comes out of it. So this is something very cool that wasn't really possible before the iPad. And let's see what happens when you actually change to a different tab. If you notice, I just tried this out for the first time. The timer keeps going, and I'm kind of curious if it will keep going if I exit out of this recipe. This is kind of I guess it will, the timer will be reset if you exit. But you can jump around the different steps of the recipe. And I think this cook mode is something that the other apps need to integrate more. Do you kind of agree with this, John, or am I kind of crazy with this one here?
No, I think that you're right on there. I mean, that's really exploiting the capabilities of the iPad, right? Putting that timer there. The other thing is, it has this next step preview. So while it's very cool and almost an absolute necessity to be able to focus really large on the current step you're on, having the next step kind of in smaller type at the bottom of the screen really is advantageous if you're kind of thinking about, well, am I doing this right? What is the next thing I have to do with it? So I like that also is mm-hmm. You're not just focused only on that one step that you're on. You can kind of glance ahead on the same screen.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I'm really waiting for in cook mode is voice activated commands, right? You say next step, and instead of touching the screen, it will just move to the next step. I'm not sure how hard that would be to integrate, or if there'd be a lot of invalid inputs that it accidentally turns a page because it hears a sound, or how that would work. But I think there's some way that we need to be able to do that with our apps, and perhaps even being read the instructions on how to cook something would be very cool.
Right. It actually shouldn't be very difficult, and I think I think this is another case of early application itis on the iPad is really, Betty Crocker was out there fairly early. I don't think they were at launch, but they came out fairly early, and so I don't think the developers had a whole lot of time with the actual device in their hands. So there might be quite a few improvements of this as we go along, and certainly voice recognition and the whole process. It'd be great. Not only would it be great to say next step, but it'd be great to have it read the text to you one time. So kind of like you have your hands full, and it's gonna read to you while you're actually getting it ready and starting it.
Yeah.
So that would be another useful thing.
I'd love to see like an iPod control right in this empty space here, so you can be playing your iPod tunes while cooking. And if it's reading, it can dim it away like it does in a TomTom app. And I think they could integrate some media controls, because I'd like to listen to music when I cook. I think other people would too. And I think as far as making sure there's no invalid commands, they could possibly have you train the cookbook to that one command, show next step, or it remembers just that, so it would be kind of hard to do a bad command, right?
Sure. And with some of the speech recognition, one of the things that you might do is have some keyword that once it hears that, it listens for the next command. That was pretty common on early versions of the speech recognition on the Macintosh. Was it wouldn't pay a lot of attention to sounds until it heard this one particular sound. So even if it mistook something for that sound, if it didn't find a valid command after that, immediately after that sound, so it's unlikely you'd have both a sound that woke it up and a valid command in sequence. So
yeah, I've used different voice systems before, and yeah, a lot of them are the keyword initialized way of doing it, and that'd be a great way to do it. And Betty Crocker's been a great app. I tried it out, and it's been just what I love about the cookbook apps is most of them are just so beautiful that you just get so hungry when you look through them.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Betty Crocker is, at least to my understanding, is just what you get, right? I mean, there's no connectivity to downloading additional recipes or anything.
Right. Some of the other apps are very good at that, but Betty Crocker is kind of what you see is what you get.
Yeah. Well, and they have plenty of things in here, so it's not like they're limited, but it isn't constantly updated like some of the other ones might be.
Yeah, some have like 140,000 recipes. Like, I think Big Oven, that's their advertising feat there. And this is what I mean by beautiful. Images like slowly moving in and out, and yeah, you get hungry. So yeah, that was Betty Crocker. It's a totally free app, which is so cool. In the past, you'd probably have to pay some money for Betty Crocker cookbook. I'm not sure if they just hand those out at the store or not.
Not too often, no.
Yeah. So the next app I want to talk about is Big Oven, and they do some pretty cool things. They've got a light version and a pro version. The pro version is $10, and this is the light version. It's free, and they've got some kind of innovative things as far as use up leftovers, as we talked about before. You're able to basically just select 3 different ingredients you have left over that you want to get rid of in this meal. So let's see if there's almonds, apple, and what else? Applesauce. I'm not sure if that's a recipe. Let's see. But it'll search the 140,000 different recipes and see if it can find something that has all 3 of those. And what do you know? We have fruit and yogurt roll-ups that have almonds. I guess there's almonds in there. So yeah, almonds are in the recipe, and it's a pretty cool way of searching for what you want to eat. It makes sense. You don't want to buy more food than you need, so why not just use them up? With the Pro version, the coolest thing is they've got an iPhone, an Android, or a web app, or even the iPad, of course, to sync over a grocery list. So you're able to find a recipe. It's got these ingredients here, and you're able to have that sync to your iPhone. So you don't need to bring your iPad out of the house to find what's in the recipe or email it to yourself or something like that. It just syncs, which is something I think the other apps should start to include, because you're going to want to buy the things you're finding in these recipe books, right?
Right. So, so it'll sync a recipe or a grocery list to your iPhone. Is there any other major differences between the free and paid for app?
Well, let's see. Here's the upgrade page. It said grocery list and more. So let's see what the and more is. The biggest thing I think was the grocery list, and I believe you can email it out from it within. But here we go. The Pro version, beyond just the grocery list, there are no ads. You're able to add individual items to grocery lists, I guess. So more customization is what I think you have with here. And you're able to show recipes nearby. I'm not sure what that exactly means. But there's some extra bonus things. I think the big thing is grocery list, and grocery list done really well.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I would hope for $10 difference between free and the paid for, that grocery list would be done really well.
Yeah. And I mean, it works with Android too, which is a nice thing if you're one of those Google guys.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 140,000 recipes, and the late version is completely free. And I didn't notice that many ads in it, so that Pro version's ad free. So that's nice.
I noticed that when you first open up the app, not only does it give you those great looking pictures, but each one has make this tonight. So if they've enticed you with that picture, you can go right to that recipe. That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it. Yeah, if you click on that, it opens up the recipe. That is very cool. I'm sure they could make some money off this, with partnering with supermarkets that have a map for just that one market in the different areas. And I don't know. They could monetize the free version in other ways, I think.
And Big Oven, it has a website, right?
They do. That's the main. That's where it all came from. That 140,000 recipes. It came from the website. Now they're really monetizing off of that from this app, because I haven't heard of Big Oven, and a lot of people probably haven't before the iDevices came out.
Yeah, yeah.
So Big Oven's great. I think the syncing is another thing with that cook. We've got cook mode and syncing that I think should be on all of these different apps. So that's another just standalone feature that should be on all these apps, I think. The next big app is Epicurious. And this one is another beautiful app that kind of makes me want to have some peppers. But Epicurious does a kind of a pseudo cook mode. And what I mean by that is they've got this marker that you're actually able to drag down, sort of like a page marker from the traditional days of paper, to keep track of where you are. So they do a better job than Big Oven as far as cooking mode, but it's still more of a manual thing. I really don't want to be touching my iPad that much while I'm cooking, I don't think. I'd rather have it broken down.
Well, true, Tim, but let me just throw out a tip here.
Mm-hmm.
You take your 1 gallon Ziploc bag and you put your iPad into it, and then you're not touching the screen and you're not getting it all messed up.
Oh, awesome. I have not tried that. That's a good hint, yeah.
And it protects it from any splashes or water or anything else while it's in the kitchen. So definitely something to do is put it in a big old Ziploc bag, and you can still work the touch pretty well through the Ziploc.
Oh, very cool. Like with some of the cases, you could probably even put the iPad in, say, the in-case convertible book jacket, since it's kind of an open case. Some of the cases it would actually work with, so it'd be cool, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing about Epicurious, which I kind of like, is that while you're going through the directions there, you've got the ingredients off to the side, or in portrait mode, you have the drop down, so you can look at the ingredients or not. And I don't know how you feel about it. I tend to use these cooking apps in portrait mode more than in landscape.
Yeah, I'm showing them in landscape just because it's easier to film.
yeah, no worries there. But so it's just I find that I like to have more lines of instructions on the screen at one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, but they're to each its own.
Yep. Definitely. So. Yeah, Epicurious, it's been a long-time favorite on the iPhone, and it's even better on the iPad because there's just that much more room. So, and it is very nicely designed. You're able to email and kind of compile your different grocery lists. I just checked this little check mark box deal here, and on the main page you'll find my shopping list. And you'll see it breaks it down into the different areas of the grocery store you actually have to go in. And this is pretty cool. So you're not going to the dairy section, back to kind of, I don't know, if you need some peanut butter, and then back to the dairy section. They're kind of broken up so you don't go all over the store without realizing it. So that's a kind of a cool feature I didn't realize until just now. And then you can check it off in different things, and you can email it off to your iPhone or however you want to do it. So it's a pretty cool way to share that data. It even gives you that little check mark stuff if you actually print it off. So Epicurious, a pretty cool app. And then the last one I want to talk about is called Photo Cookbook. This one's a $5 application. And the reason I wanted to bring this one up is because it's just such a beautiful app. I have not... this is the only one I haven't purchased or gotten yet, but I want to talk about because I think the description on the App Store was enough to kind of give me a grasp of what it was all about. And basically, you have these really high-res pictures of different meals that are all designed to be made in 30 minutes or less, which is great for those that are time conscious and all those things. And it guides you pictorially through the different modes of what you need to be cooking. So with text, sometimes you're not sure if I'm making this right until the end, when you realize, hey, I forgot something and it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So each step you have kind of, this is what it should look like right now. And it gives this beautiful way to, it turns the ordinary person to a person that could make a beautiful meal, both visually and how it tastes. So a very cool app that I'd check out. The big limitation here, of course, is since they went through all this detail and depth in these recipes, it takes them a long time to add new ones, so it's more limited in the number of recipes.
Sure, but this is actually something that a neophyte cook like myself really, I've wished for this a number of times, where you get halfway through a recipe and it's asking you to do something, and you're like, am I doing that right? Did I blend that, or whip it to the right consistency, or did I, over whip it or under whip it, or, whatever you're doing. Having extra pictures along the way is just great for somebody who's not super experienced in cooking.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's something that I'd messed up recipes before because I didn't really understand what the terminology, and pictures are kind of the universal language. You don't really need to read English to read through pictures. So, yeah, I mean, I think the big conclusion I've made from the different apps is I think people, the designers, the application developers need to take using the app in the kitchen more seriously with the cooking mode and really integrate that better. And then the syncing to iPhone, I think, is very crucial as far as buying the things like that. So I think those are the big things to take away from that. From there, I want to move to iBooks. iBooks is something that, as everyone knows, is a bookstore, right? And as you might imagine, most bookstores have cookbooks. And this one is no exception. So I did find some cookbooks in the iBook store. And the big thing I noticed was it's just not as good of an experience in a cookbook. You'll find some, through iBooks is what I'm talking about. So, especially with the free ones that are out there. So, I've got this pulled up. This is the top free cookbook app in the iBook store. And as you'll see, there's no formatting to make it easy to kind of follow as you're trying to cook anything. It's just all text. Now, there's been some guys that have been able to do this better. So some of the paid ones, like this 15-minute one, they've got a picture of what it should look like and decently arranged and, some nice graphics to make it better. But I still think an app is the way to go as far as cookbooks. Do you kind of agree with EPUB not being the best kind of format for this?
Well, I think it's EPUB is just giving you the cookbook on an electronic screen, right? I mean,
right.
It's fine for reading, but just like some of the books that have come out, like the Alice book and different things that have come out as applications and not as books, we see a much richer experience with something that's an application and not just a book. And so cookbooks are the same way. It's, the applications are going to give you a much better experience, a much richer experience than, just getting a cookbook. So I would definitely say, look for the applications first.
Yeah, I agree too. When one thing the book publishers are gonna have a hard time with is the iBookstore versus the App Store. The prices are not gonna be good for the bookstore because I found books 10, 15, some $20 cookbooks out there. Well, you have apps, some free, that give you 140,000 recipes with reviews and ratings and beautiful interfaces, and it's gonna be a tough market to.
Well,
right?
I think the big difference is going to be, recipes from known entities as opposed to 100,000 recipes from anybody on the web.
Sure.
I mean, that's the big difference, right? You're going to look for name chefs and different people to come out with something that, and what I expect might happen is that you're going to get one or two of these publishers that are going to catch on to it, and they're going to say, all right, well, I'm going to pay to get an application framework made, so I pay for this app kind of one time or almost one time, and then I'm going to take, the dessert recipes from whoever, Julia Child or whatever, and I'm going to put those into an app, and then I'm going to do another app with the same framework and just put some different content from somebody else into it. And so that's how they're going to be able to monetize that. So it's it's $3 for the Julia Child dessert cookbook as opposed to an EPUB of all of Julia Child's stuff for $10.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Having the better, well-known like Emerald Lagasse cookbook, people would buy that. I think that the app way is the way to go. Turn those books into apps. I think, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's all the prices are going to come down. It's like the Wired magazine app is a tremendously rich experience, but people I don't think are going to continue to pay whatever it is, $5.99 a month to get each issue of it. Over time it's definitely going to come down to something more reasonable that people are going to be willing to pay. The rich experience is great, but it coming at a premium is not going to last.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I didn't even pick up the Wire magazine because I think $5 was just ridiculous for a single magazine, edition.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think iBooks have a long way to go, and I think apps is the real solution for this kind of material.
Did you have an opportunity? You're working at Amazon on the video feed. Did you have an opportunity to look at what's available through the Kindle store or through the Barnes and Noble?
I did not.
Stores,
I didn't even.
I'm sure there's a lot of options in each of those places as well. So if somebody wants a cookbook, they should look at all.
Yeah, I kind of stuck with iBooks because I figured these were originally intended for the iPad, so they might have had more consideration as far as images and things like that because the other ones are black and white, and they might have taken more time with that. I figure with Kindle books, even though they appear in color on the iPad, they might not have been formatted as well. Is that a bad assumption to make?
I don't know if it's good or bad. Not having quite enough experience with the differences between the what you get out of each bookstore, but certainly if you're a Kindle user, don't hesitate to look for cookbooks in the Kindle bookstore or even on the Barnes and Noble site for the Barnes and Noble e-reader.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's great that all those readers are free and you can. I think most of us would like one place that all of our books on the iPad reside, but while we have 3 different formats, I would certainly say don't pass by a book you want because it's not in iBooks, or conversely, if you're an old Kindle user, don't pass a book by just because you can't find it in the Kindle store. Look other places.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that the Kindle experience is very good on the iPad. They've got the page animations and all of that. And if there's a book in there I'd really want, I think I would buy it, but I'd think more about it because I'm trying not to, divide my bookshelves into different stores.
Sure. I think, and that might be, I would probably look at that more for, the fiction and the different things that I'm reading all the time on the iPad. Something like a cookbook, though, it's less used, and you just specifically could go to the other app to use it. Kind of my feeling on it.
Yeah, very true. And I'll be excited when the iBooks gets updated to support the PDF stuff, because there could be a lot of... I'm not sure if PDF's the best format for cookbooks, but there might be some cool self-publishers out there, like not O'Reilly, but similar guys out there that could make some good cookbooks out of PDFs.
Well, and that's a good point to mention about self-publishing, because with the ease of being and I don't think we've seen much of it yet, but we will. The ease of publishing in the iBook store for self-publishers. I would suspect that we'll see a lot of cookbooks from, Aunt Sue in Oklahoma or wherever, who's going to self-publish, the recipes that she's been collecting for generations, and it'll be very interesting, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think it's a lot easier to publish iBook than it is an app. You don't have to know how to write code to publish an iBook. You just have to open up some sort of EPUB editor and create your document. And it might be a little more time consuming, but it's definitely easier, I think.
Yeah, it's certainly easier, and it's easier than self-publishing in paper, printed media. It's so much less costly to be able to do that. So it's certainly something that people who've always wanted to self-publish will find this a much easier outlet to get their stuff out there. And I don't know about you, but I run into probably a couple of people every year that start talking about, I've got grandma's recipes that I always wanted to publish.
Yeah, there's people that have different opinions of publishers. Some like them and think it's a great thing to have so people can have good content, but I think people will decide by reviewing the content if it's good or not.
Yep.
So moving away from iBooks and the actual recipes and things, I want to move more towards some hardware.
And actually, Tim, before we move away, there are a few other applications that are kind of interesting on for the iPad.
Okay.
So one I happened to run across when I was looking for the photo cookbook is Noodles HD, a pasta guide. So for 99 cents, you can have essentially like a database of all different kinds of noodles from all different countries. So if you like pasta and you go into some place and you get a dish with a pasta you've never seen, or for that matter, if you're cooking and it calls for a pasta that you've never seen, you can kind of look them up in this handy little thing. I know people have. I've been out to dinner with somebody and we're eating something, and somebody, will say to me, "What noodle is this?" And I guess they turn to me because I tend to be the person that has a bunch of unimportant information in their head. And sometimes I'll know it and sometimes I won't. So
it's kind of funny you mentioned that. I was at a restaurant the other day, and it was this really nice Italian restaurant, and I know what a lot of these noodles are in English, but the entire menu was in Italian. It's like, what's this? What's that? So yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. But Noodles HD looks like a great, very helpful app to help you learn your pastas and noodles and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Any other app picks? Or I think if you do a search, there's some cook timers and things like that in the store. But I think if you use the Betty Crocker app, that's kind of built in. But are there any kind of applications that you could think of that would help a cooker out besides recipes?
I haven't seen any, but it'd be interesting if somebody had kind of an application that maybe taught people some different cooking techniques. Like when it says poach something, what does that really look like when you're doing it? And it'd be interesting to see if there, if you could play a little video and say, this is what poaching, is all about, or what's the difference between sautéing and not sautéing, or, so so from a very beginner kind of way of here's those things. So you're looking over your recipe in Epicurious or something, and it says do this, and you're like, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
And you can fire up this other app and see what that really means.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be really handy.
Yeah, I'd also like to see, just more cooking guidance, like kind of a cook. They've got the workout trainer apps, like a cook trainer app to help you learn, what is raw, what is, well done mean, all those different kind of things that some people just don't know. So that'd be very cool. Well, kind of moving from there, I think hardware is definitely something we need to talk about because you don't want to use your what they call the naked iPad in the kitchen. You want a case, or you want some sort of stand at least for it. And what we've found, and other podcasters have found, is the cookbook stands actually work really well with the iPad.
Well, and besides the cookbook stands, which are sometimes hard to find, certainly small picture easels made great iPad stands and probably work very well in the kitchen.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the case I have, the in-case vertical book jacket, I think that's what it's called, complicated name, but I think that'd work actually really well in the kitchen too. As you mentioned earlier with the plastic bag on it, I could just put that in there and it would fit in. So the in-case convertible book jacket might be a good alternate to that cookbook. Not so much for the vertical mode, so perhaps that's where you might need the cookbook stand.
Right.
So, that was a big hardware thing. Just keep in mind you don't want to use your iPad without a case or whatever in the kitchen because there will be splattering, there will be... So, screen protectors, or in this case Ziploc bags, would probably work better than screen protectors because it might be a little bit thicker than your traditional screen protector.
Mm-hmm.
So, just some things to keep in mind while you're out exploring with the iPad in the kitchen. So, from there, I want to move to our picks of the week. Do you have any in mind, John?
Why don't you go first, Tim?
Okay. Well, I've been playing with a couple different apps this week. The first one is called Colloquy. I don't think I've picked this yet. If I have, please let me know. It's an IRC client for the iPad and iPhone. And it's just a well-designed just IRC client. So I'm logged right into the International Mac Podcast. There was a show earlier today, and I was in the chat room here on my iPad and listening in the background through the Safari. So wonderful way to use your iPad to join into those live communities. And I think it's $3 or so. This one I actually did pay for, so it's a great app that I'd recommend. From there, this is a free app that's been featured on some different websites called Multipong. And Multipong is, as it says, a multiple player Pong interface here. So it is for the iPad, and you can play it in up to 4 different people. I'm going to do one player mode, but as you see, there are these different Pong little things you move around. Trying to get a good angle here on the camera. But it's just a big square that each side, when you're in 4-player mode, will have their each little different Pong guy there that you try to just keep the ball from going into the different goals. So Multipong is completely free. I think this weekend and some of next week, I'm not sure when it goes up in price, but I'd grab it now while it's free. And my last pick is the Betty Crocker app. As we talked about earlier, I think the cookbook mode really makes it stand out as an app that should be on every iPad to just kind of demonstrate why this is more than a traditional piece of computer hardware, right? So those are my picks of the week. I'll have some very cool ones next week, such as Reader. I haven't had a time to play with it as much, but I think that one's going to be very cool. And I'll talk about that one more next week, I think.
Very good, very good. I'm a little unprepared for picks this week. I had some issues downloading some things through the App Store this week when I was traveling. And so there were a couple of things that I was going to try out that I didn't get downloaded until I ended up getting back home. So, there'll be I'm looking at a few photography apps. But there is one thing that I did try, and it's kind of we've kind of talked about it in the past, or similar apps, and it's called Alarm Clock.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is it's one of those things that puts it allows you to pick a picture, and it puts the time up, and gives you the weather, and it'll do some Facebook stuff, and set a couple of different alarms. So it's kind of like has those widgets at the bottom with a picture, and it's not super great, but it's convenient to grab all that information real quickly.
Sure.
So
I think it's only $1 or so. Is that right?
yeah, it's relatively cheap. I think it was $1 or $2.
Yep, here it is in the App Store, and yeah, beautiful looking app here. Yeah, that looks fantastic. I've not really played around too much with that because with the jailbroken iPads, you can install the built-in wonderful iPhone system alarm. So that works great on the iPad if you're a jailbreaker. But yeah, that looks like a wonderful app. Any other picks or suggestions or things of the week?
Nope. Just another week in iPad news. So nothing big for me.
Okay, very cool. Well, with that said, where can people find you in the interwebs?
Jay Finnan on Twitter, and it's probably the best place.
Okay, awesome. And you can find me on Twitter at TCHATEN, and you can also check out two of my new first two articles at appadvice.com. I've got 2 app guides. One is an app guide on iPad music keywords, as I've been talking about on this show, and the other is on web browsers, as we talked about on one of the live shows. So check those articles out and let me know what you think, starting over there with App Advice, and it's been a lot of fun so far. And check me out also at thepossibilitiesnetwork.com. And feedback, before we end the show here, is always welcomed and always appreciated. And you can send that to me at iPadPossibilities@gmail.com, and voicemail, just call in at 209-542-iPad, and all of the feedback is greatly appreciated, and we'll play it back on the show if it's appropriate, and all of those different things, so send it in. And if you'd like to support this show, you can do that through iTunes by simply rating and reviewing the show. And you can also support the show by becoming a premium member. And with that, you get ad-free versions of the shows. You get notifications of free apps that get from developers and all sorts of great things. So you can check that out at thepossibilitiesnetwork.com. And you can also support the show finally in the App Store by purchasing the iPad Possibilities podcast app. And with that app, you get the shows Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, as well as a couple of extra video shows. So that's how to support this show. And with that said, I'll be back sometime around Wednesday, Thursday this week for that episode. And until then, this is Tim Chatton with the iPad Possibilities Podcast.